All right, so let's get into it. So these are some questions that we consider when we're going to defend a 3-by-1 formation. First of all, from a 3-4 scheme, do you want to drop 8 or do you want to drop 7? If you're going to drop 8, how are you going to play that extra defender? Are you going to use him as a spy on the quarterback? Are you going to green dog him or delay rush him? Are you going to drop him into the hole and have him be like a robber? That's something that you guys got to decide and determine. If you're going to drop 7, then the question becomes, excuse me, where are you going to send that fourth rusher from? Is he going to come from the field? Is he going to come from the bench? Is he going to come from the interior? It honestly doesn't really matter. That's entirely up to you. But you do got to dictate where that guy's going to come from. That's one of the beauties of running a 3-4 structure is that you can send that guy from anywhere, and the offense has got to have some kind of protection in place that can defend wherever that guy's coming from. If you're going to defend, or excuse me, when you're going to defend trips, you got to determine, is it trip strong, which is what we call trips when the running back is to the trip side, trips weak, when that running back is to the single side, and then to the single side wide receiver, how are you going to defend that X? These are all things that you need to consider when defending trips formation. How are you going to treat FIB? When there's 3 receivers into the bench, and I'm not talking about a running back, a slot, and a running back, or excuse me, a wide receiver, a slot, and a running back. I'm talking about when there's 3 displaced receivers, whether they're in a compressed formation, like a bunch formation, or there's just 3 guys over there, or maybe it's a wide out, a slot, and a tight end. How are you going to defend that? I think you have to have answers for that. How are you going to handle motions and shifts? What are you going to do when they go into empty and bunch? How are you going to handle a mobile quarterback? And then ultimately, how many coverages do you want to cover? Because there's no shortage of coverages and variations that you can do. But if you're like us at the high school level in California, I've got an hour to do defense a day. And then we got an hour of offense and half an hour of special teams and warming up, and then we're out of here. So, how much can you, teach in that hour? And so you've got to be really, really selective, at least in our opinion, because, we're always battling time, and that's the main hurdle that we've got to overcome. So when it comes to, teaching, we got to make sure that we have just enough to defend what we need to defend, but not overwhelm our kids so that we get paralysis by analysis and kids are playing slow because they're confused. All right, so the answers to all these questions are going to dictate your plan of attack when it comes to defending trips. So we're going to call one of the following coverages, which will run once a team either aligns in trips or motions to trips. So let's back up for a second. We are a split field coverage, quarters-based defense. That is what we do when the team comes out in 2-by-2 formations. However, when they come out into trips, we have a check that we run versus those trips formations. So, for example, we call our quarters coverage, our cover 4, we call it green. All of our coverage structures versus 2-by-2 have a color. So, for example, we use green for quarters. We use gray for cover 2. We use rose for cover 3, and so on and so on. So we have different colors for the 2-by-2 formations, but when it comes to 3-by-1, we have a word that we use. And the words that we use are serpent, solo, and samurai. So what I'm going to be going over is those 3, plus some bunch variations that we use, as well as some motions to checks. So to the trip side, we're going to use what we call a guardian concept, and to the single wide receiver, we're going to use our games concept. Guardian concept just simply means we're using these terms that come from Guardians of the Galaxy, because our kids were into that a few years ago. So we've got, Star-Lord and Groot and Rocket and, all the characters from Guardian. Probably need to update that because some of these kids are now so young that I don't even know if they remember the Guardians. But anyways, that's how we got to the names. You can call it whatever. But from a generic standpoint, and that's half the battle as coaches we got to fight is, what are the terms that everybody's using? So for us, serpent is what a lot of teams will call noose or palms. Solo, I've heard people call it poach, or maybe some other variations, but that's the main one I've heard of. Samurai is the one that I've heard the most variations of names of. Some teams call it lock or mini or special. The Saban and Kirby Smart tree calls it stump and stubby. So these are just names that are used out there. So when you see some of the stuff we see, you're going to probably recognize, oh, that's what so and so calls this, or what so and so calls that. So, all right, solo versus trip strong. So running back to the trip side. So on the trip side, we've got man on deep on number 1, zone off. Okay, we're going to let that guy go. All right, our strong safety Actually, let me check this. Yeah. Actually, let's just get into the schematics here. All right, so solo, okay, that's our alignments. We're going to have our corner off of number 1. Our nickel is going to apex 2 and 3. Our Mike backer is going to play in a 50 alignment. Okay, so he's just outside the offensive tackle here. Our strong safety is going to play inside of number 2. Okay, and our free safety is going to play over the ball with our rush and our corner on the backside. Okay, so that's our alignment versus 3x1 gun strong, 3x1 gun weak, or excuse me, 3x1 with tight end in the core. We're going to still have our nickel apex between these two. Okay, we're not going to play them on the line like we did in Serpent. Okay, if they come out in FIB, okay, come out in FIB, we're going to travel the nickel over and play Serpent. We're going to check the Serpent because we don't want to run solo versus FIB. Okay, so that's one of the things that we'll do is you'll have some autos lined up. Okay, and our auto versus FIB is Serpent. All right, so let's get into the coverage now. So what we are doing in solo is we're going to play a palms concept between the corner, the nickel, and the strong safety versus 1 and 2. Okay, our free safety, okay, our free safety and our Mike backer are going to stack the number 3 receiver. Translation, you're going to play low and you're going to play high on the number 3 receiver. Okay, now because it is gun strong, our rush is going to be the spy. All right, our will and our Mike, because we have the possibility of a fast 4, are going to work a 4-3 push between the number 3 and the number 4. So if we get a fast 4, we're expecting him to come in. He'll work to him. They'll continue to expand with the idea if they do dump the ball, we're just going to come up and rally and make a tackle. Okay, now, if this running back stays in and blocks, now we're working a 3-2 push. He goes out, right? He comes in. He'll pick him up. He'll expand, expecting to help out on him. Okay. Now, the one thing you will notice is that we've got a megged corner here on the backside. Okay. Now, that can be a little nerve-wracking and a little scary at times, especially depending on who your corner is. Okay. But one of the things that we do to help him out is we tell the safety, listen, you're keying number 3. If this number 3 does a shallow in or a shallow out right now, you are here and then backside to help on the single side post. Okay, so we do give our corner a little bit of help in this scenario. Now, if the number 3 goes vertical, well, then the corner is all on his own. All right, so the idea is simply this. If a team was to go 3 verticals, okay, 3 verticals, we've got them covered by a corner, a safety, a strong safety, and a corner. Okay, and that's primarily why we like solo, is to defend the 3 vertical game. All right, if it's gun weak, okay, gun weak, now we're going to put the will into the spy, and we're going to have our rush man-to-man on that running back. And everything else is the same for everybody else. Okay, these 3 are taking care of these 2. The Mike and the free safety are going to stack the number 3 receiver. Your backside corner is man-to-man on the number 1. Now, if we get a tight split, so let's cancel this guy out. Let's bring him in tight. Okay, is there a possibility that we're going to get a shallow here and this? Yes. So we can, and we have, these 2 guys will swap. The rush will take care of the shallow, and the corner will take care of the fast 2 coming out of the backfield. So we've done that as well. All right, and then if they go into FIB, again, we just check into Serpent. All right, so let's go into solo. All right, so here we are in solo. All right, we've got our corner. We've got our nickel apex between 2 and 3, our strong safety in between 2 and 3, and our free safety inside of 3 with our Mike backer in a 50 alignment. Okay, and then we've got our rush and our will. Okay, so that's their alignment. We go through the coverage. Bang, we get 3 vertical. Right, so right now, everything's looking golden. Right, we got the corner on 1, the strong safety on 2, free safety on 3, corner on 1. Right, so everything's looking good coverage-wise. Now, where we get into some problems, right, the quarterback starts scrambling, and the receiver finds an open window. He breaks his route off, corner gets twisted around. Right, but that's not on the coverage. You can't ask your cover guys to cover for 5 seconds. Right, the rush has got to get there. We've got to get to the quarterback. All right, next formation. Okay, so again, we've got our corner, we've got our strong safety, our nickel apex, our free safety, our backside corner, our Mike, our Will, our rush. Okay, so everybody's lined up correctly versus 3x1. We got gun weak. So if they were to do a shallow and this guy were to release here, our rush would run with that and our corner would pick him up. Okay, that's what we would do if they did that route combination. Otherwise, if this guy were to swing or whatever, it doesn't even really matter what he does, but let's just say this guy does a vertical route, corner's got him, and the rush has got him. Okay. All right, so let's take a look here. All right, so everything is golden, right? We got 3 vertical routes, right? Corners on 1, strong on 2, freeze on 3, corners on 1. But when the quarterback feels pressure, he starts scrambling. You watch our corner at the bottom of the screen. He gets caught staring into the backfield. And uh-oh, bad news. So again, once your guy goes vertical, you got to stay with him. You have no business, corner, getting in the run, coming up on a quarterback scramble. That's not your job. Stay with your guy. Okay, here we go. Solo again. Okay, so again, to the top, we've got our corner, our strong and our free, taking care of 1, 2, and 3. Nickel's apex. Mike is in a 50 versus a gun strong. Right, so we do have the possibility of a 4-3 push. If we get a fast 4, he comes in, right? The nickel, okay, the nickel would expand. The Mike would now work to the new number 4 coming in. Okay, and everybody else is doing the same thing. So we get a fast 4. So you look at our Mike backer. Our Mike backer is wrong. Got a fast 4. So watch the Mike backer. This is not what he should be doing. He should be expanding to the number 3 coming here. This guy coming out here is going to be the nickel's responsibility if they throw the ball to him. So there's the number 3, right, where the Mike backer should be. Okay, instead, he locked up on him. That's not a winning business model. And it's not what we want because there's our nickel right there. So if they had thrown the ball to him, our nickel's in a position to come up and make that tackle. Oops, sorry. Let's go back to that. Okay, so the quarterback releases it, right? But coverage down the field, we're golden. We've got the strong safety, corner, taking care of their respective guys because we tell our corners and safeties that once your guy goes vertical past the outside linebacker, which is our nickel, all right? So this is the number 2. He's clearly past him. The corner's clearly past him, or the number 1's past him. You now have him man-to-man. You have a man-to-man. So that means if they were to switch at any point, okay, the corner's got to run with his guy, the safety's got to run with his guy. That's how we define going vertical, is once they're past that linebacker depth, that's your guy. Okay, one more on this, and then we'll move on to the next coverage. Okay, so again, we got 4 strong, right? So we got the running back to the trip side, so we're going to be working a 4-3 push. Okay, so you can see the number 3 coming inside. That should be our Mike backer that picks that up, not our Will. The Will is the spy on the quarterback. Okay, so again, we screw this up again. All right, so we get a fast 4. 3's coming in. He's spying the quarterback. So you need to pick up this number 3 coming in. You expand with the understanding that they dump the ball to the running back. You're coming up and making a tackle. But as far as the deeper routes are concerned, we're in position. We just don't make a play on the ball. Okay, so again, we're getting a vertical route here, a vertical route here. You're on him. You're on him. Everything's golden in terms of who we're supposed to be covering on the vertical routes. But our corner just doesn't make a play on the ball. Receiver makes a great catch, and it's a touchdown. All right, so that is solo coverage.